What is it do you like about Coke?
I love the smell of it.
It's raw. It's raw every goddamn year.
Yes,
Lord.
CIRV'N raw, goddamn it.
Subscribe to CIRV'N IT RAW and let's keep it
all the way funky, uncut, raw. CIRV'N IT RAW, just like my boy Gutter Kane.
Yes, Lord, you done tapped into CIRV'N IT RAW podcast, where we let the conversation flow uninterrupted. I'm your host, Gutter Kane, the Gutter Man, and today I'm joined by another hip-hop icon. This artist made waves with the classic debut album, My Balls and My Word, which included the Southern Classic and the national hit, How You Do That, featuring legends Master P and C-Loc. He's from a town called Fresh Off Your Motherfucking Ass, steady mobbing to the gun blast.
Yes,
Help me welcome to CIRV'N IT RAW, Young Bleed. What's up, baby?
Appreciate that beautiful intro, my brother. Good looking right there. Much love.
Oh,
hanging in now. Yeah,
hey,
chilling,
man.
man.
You don't always be able to get in touch with these legends, man. You know, and I'm originally from Louisiana. You know what I'm saying? So,
okay. What part you from, Gut?
I'm from Jonesboro. I'm from the same place Lil Snoop from. Rest in peace.
Okay, rest in peace, Lil Snoop. Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. Born and raised, man. So it's like, you know, I was raised on, you know, before No Limit, you know, you had Big Boy Records and Cash Money and then C-Loc Records.
Sir. Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I was raised, we was raised on all that. So
yeah, you off the saw, man. You can't miss it. That part.
For sure. So we definitely finna dive in. So I know where you from, but for people for the new generation of people that don't know who Young Bleed is, where you from originally?
Hey, I'm from the bottom of South Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We are VRGANGSTER, man. That part.
Yes, Lord. Shout out to South Baton Rouge. You know what I'm saying?
Sir. Absolutely.
Now, how did the creation of concentration camp in '95 affect Baton Rouge hip hop scene, and what was your involvement in the group? Because I know you came up with the name.
Yeah, I'm the founder. I came up with the name. Actually, the homie C-Loc had the label, man, and we go back since like middle school and things like that. Him and Lee Times is like the founders of C-Loc Records. And I grew up with Lee Time as well. We all from the same neighborhood. But as we was evolving, it was at a time when you mentioned Big Boy Records that had the boot camp clique. And you also had the boot camp clique up there in up in New York, New Jersey, yeah, that type of thing. Buckshot and those guys, Smith and Wesson, and so on and so forth. Wu-Tang, I think everybody else was developing. We was coming back into the cliquelation of hip hop. So I felt like we needed a name, you know what I mean, that solidified us as a team and as a unit beyond just C-Loc Records and, you know, and that type of thing at the time. I'm being and Lee Time is a solo artist and producer as well. So like I said, those guys were the founding fathers, my big brothers to the streets. And I presented that to them as we started to morph into a clique and other guys came aboard. And I said, we need a cliquelation name that solidifies all of us. I'm a big fan of Dub C and the Mass Circle, you know what I mean? Rest in peace to Crazy Tunes, rest in peace to Coolio, those type of guys, you know what I mean? Shouts out to Dub C. So I always look at their logo for what the Mass Circle meant. And it was a earth and a barbed wire fence. Then I listened to a lot of Ghetto Boys records with him mentioning in the year 2015, so on and so forth, on that Resurrected album, that the neighborhood is going to be more like concentration camps. So as we evolving and coming into the millennium, I'm a June baby. I'm born on the actual, you know what I mean, most famous day in June. I don't think we have a holiday in June, but D-Day. Present day and to the past, that was World War II time. So my granddaddy named me my nickname, you know what I mean? What that came to be, you know, in the neighborhood, in the streets, if you really know me, everybody called me Tank or Lit Tank. So my mother was pregnant. He said, you know, her stomach looked like one of them Abrams war tanks. So if she had a boy, that's what his nickname was be. So I was actually named that before my government, which is a junior, you know, under my father. But that whole evolution, man, I grew up, you know, loving stuff like in school that shows the Diary of Anne Frank and all that that symbolized the Holocaust and all that type of thing. So when I looked at in relation to the Jews and a modern day genocide, I said it's like a concentration camp, the record company where everybody come together, in that sense, in a positive way, opposite of what we know about the original Holocaust. So I said that was a good clickation name for us, breaking it down, CON apostrophe cent ratio count. You see what I'm saying? So for us, that was going in and out of jail and graduating out of school. It was a place that was a good in between, like a purgatory between heaven and hell to decide what your future was going to be. So I felt like that met us as a family and as a clique unit and that type of thing. Presented it to the founder fathers, and the rest is history. You know what I mean? They dug it, and we've been running with it ever since.
After you came up with the group,
yeah,
I know the first CD was a compilation.
Yeah.
Were y'all already in talks or already had in y'all mind that y'all were going to turn it into the group concentration camp, or did it just kind of go that way?
Well, after, the origins that I just presented to you, we was already pretty much a group for everybody that was in the inner family circle. Now, that particular album presented other artists from New Orleans and different areas in Baton Rouge, all the way out to Alabama. So people was coming in, but who stayed by the time you get to the second concentration camp, we stayed and it looked more like a group effort. But it was an aim to be an umbrella for anybody, and it just wasn't a South Baton Rouge thing or a Baton Rouge, local thing. So that was an open door and expansion to, it's not about the one man, one mic, and one MC, one DJ, two MCs, a DJ, coming from the origins of hip hop. And like I said, a more like Wu-Tang kind of effort. We just left that door open, not knowing how many land and be considered what you consider the group now. So in that effort, that was just an umbrella for anybody that was coming to be a part of C-Loc Records. And we became the family under that umbrella.
Okay, gotcha. All right, now, for people that don't know, I know how you do, you've covered this a few times, so I'm just giving a little spiel. I know how you do that originally was your solo song on the original compilation, which was titled "The Fool."
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And we know Master P hopped on the remix, and along with C-Loc, and actually blew it up where it was more national, gave you more national.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And so one thing I want to touch on is, because I know you've already talked about that, I know Happy Perez was the producer for the camp, the in-house producer.
Well, originally here again, lead time. You see what I'm saying? And Happy came along. I presented Happy, Max Manelli, and Jay Vaughn, which was a group called Laylo at the time. Was my younger homeboy from across the river, Irwinville, and that type of thing. They grew up and went to school together. Happy being an H-Town native, shouts out and free my guy, South Park Mexican. He come out of South Park, out of Houston, but his family had family origins in Louisiana. And I would meet him. It was like the first Mexican. We got a lot of Mexicans now, different parts of the city we call Mexican City, or Lit Mexico, or Garderio, what I'm saying? Due to Hurricane Katrina, when it brought the workload down here. So now it's a half Mexican city in that sense of the word. But at the time, they was the only Mexican family that I knew on the strength of Max Manelli. So really, me and Happy together produced How You Do That, if I could say that like that. My idea and the audience that I passed on to him, I laid the drum template. We did a few samples, and he added his finishing touches on it. So that's the basis of it.
Okay, now, how was the dynamic like between you and Happy in the studio when y'all was creating music?
Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, you know what I mean? Once we got together, it was a beautiful magic and beautiful time I shared with Happy. Happy was a younger kid than me, and he had like Jimi Hendrix Lifeline tapes, and I'm a Hendrix fan. So we'll share different stuff like that for us, the underground and real behind the scenes, authentic music. So our mesh with music, we could talk to each other mentally in one sense of the word. If I give him an idea and he go produce it overnight, that song's like The Last Outlaw, the day they made me boss. I walked in and he was tinkering with the keyboard, tinkering around with it. And I heard what he was doing. And I just, hey man, add some drums to that shit. What the producer can't hear, the lyricist can hear, and vice versa sometimes. So that's the makings of that 85% of that album was me, him sharing the idea with me sharing the idea with him, and the rest here again is history.
Ooh. Hey, boy, y'all chemistry was something else. I ain't even gonna lie. That's why I definitely wanted to touch on that. And shout out to
Right
Happy,
now.
man.
Yes, sir. Shout out Happy. Yeah.
Okay, now people, I know some people might have paid attention to this, some people probably didn't. I was one of those hip hop heads that paid attention to this. And Boosie's youngest of the camp,
Yeah.
they had a coming soon where it said Smokey and Da Bandit, and they had, him and C-Loc. But if people can kind of recall, that album actually was supposed to be you and C-Loc because it actually advertised first in the Holocaust booklet.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
absolutely.
So what was the theme? What was the theme that you and C-Loc was planning to explore in that unreleased album?
In a sense, in real life, we grew more like Craig and Smokey on Friday. You know what I'm saying? I smoked weed all the time. He didn't smoke at the time, that type of thing. So he was big brother to me for us, streetwise and otherwise. Our mothers went to high school together. So in life later on, we hooked up without knowing that. You know what I mean? So family and neighborhood origins. But at the time, before I changed my name finally to Young Bleed, my name right before that was G-Loc, G-L-O-C, Ghetto Life Outcast was my name. And I didn't know him. He was my DJ in middle school, and we separated for a time and got back together in our later teenage years. And when I realized his name was C-Loc, we didn't know this about each other. I was G-Loc. We first decided to do an album called A Pair of Lokes, where I was telling him, look, man, let's put our face together, kind of like the face-off shit.
Yeah.
And put a Pair of Lokes on our face. Then later on, he came up with, let's just do a Smokey and Da Bandit, which, due to the breakup of the clique and all that type of thing, we never had a chance to do that record. But yeah, you did your homework, my brother. That go way back.
Yes, Lord.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, I know you and C-Loc on, I know y'all had like some friction back then, and I know y'all on good terms now, and that's that's one thing that I always strive to bring, like, hey, just seeing y'all back cool and everything is good, man. That's lovely for hip hop.
Well, not actually, man. And being honest, that's my bro for life and all that. But since those days, man, sad but true to say, we hadn't talked and been able to reconcile. I done made some efforts, but it take two, you know what I mean, to make a thing go right. And I don't think he done came, to terms to be able to do that with me ultimately. You know what I mean? So, God bless the day that we sit down and perhaps could put our differences aside. You know what I mean? It go both ways. I had my thoughts and theories on how things should have been. He had his. And when everything got to his blast, it separated us. Before then, we was best of friends. You know what I mean? You couldn't say a bad word about me. You couldn't say a bad word about him. But that separated us. Money, youthfulness, all that. You know what I mean? Like Jay-Z would say, we had no knowledge of this shit. We was with whatever. Yeah. So we come from a street hood in a neighborhood and blew the city up. And that took us from Baton Rouge to Los Angeles, California by aid of Master P and No Limit Records and Priority Records eventually. So we had the same kind of NWA evolution where I separated from the clique and signed directly to Priority. So it's never been the same for us a personal note since then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, hey, I do pray and hope, y'all are able to have a discussion, man. Like I said, I mean, y'all are two people that I grew up on, and I've always seen y'all together back then. That's how I started listening to our music with y'all two together. So, I know, yes, sir. I have no doubt that'll happen. So after your situation with Priority, you ended up signing and doing a deal with Sibo.
Yeah.
Okay, and being part of the West Coast Mafia.
Not right after that. Just to give you the gaps. I went back from Priority Records when they folded in the process of my third album, the creation of it, Vintage.
The Vintage.
I needed an outlet for Vintage. And, it's the funny thing. It's like banks. As long as you got money, they'll loan you some money. You know what I'm saying? But when you don't have no money, then everybody go their separate ways. So long as I was on Priority, every record company was trying to bring me into their situation. I'm a loyalist, so I never left Priority. But they ended up folding under me. So it forced me back, in a sense, to an independent situation. And the first and only people that really opened the doors to me, and I always include them, is Mr. Johnny Phillips and Selecto Hits, distribution out of Memphis, Tennessee. So I go on to produce and put out a couple of records under there right before West Coast Mafia. So I wanted to give you that information. Yes, sir.
No, thank you. Now, speaking of vintage, what is supposed to be the actual title for that? Because that has always been a thing as well that I've heard. You know, it's kind of like a Tupac's, like the Machiavelli album. You know, you know how the title was technically supposed to be Machiavelli the Don, and then the name of the album was supposed to be called Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory. But but you know, they messed up the wording, so it looked like it's just Machiavelli, and then the title is the Don Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory, and that's not how it's supposed. So I've always had an issue with the vintage. Is this supposed to be Young Bleed Coleon's vintage or Coleon's vintage?
Well, really, the thing is, when I was on Priority, my whole effort was to always, you know, it's like first, middle, and last name. The young that bleed for this mafia, rap mafia done generation. You see what I'm saying? When you break it down in 3 terms. But I always presented that to Priority, but for whatever reason, I don't know to this day, they wouldn't allow me to put the Corleone on a record. You know what I mean? So we went with Young Bleed, ran with it. The public took to it. You know, don't rock the boat. If it ain't, you know, broke, don't fix it type of thing. So when I got to Selecto Hits, they gave me a little bit more creative freedom to do whatever I wanted to do. So I did what I set out to do initially by adding a Corleone, Young Bleed Corleone. You hear me say that throughout my whole career. But I wanted to advertise that for people. But what I learned to respect was with putting just the Corleone on it, the other Young Bleed records are being a different section of the record store. With that C on it, I think Young Bleed, Corleone, you'll find that in the C section. You can find Young Bleed in the Y's. So it confuses the consumer. So I respect it at the end of the day. But it's not a percentage, just Young Bleed, Corleone, vintage. The only thing added is the Corleone. You know, like I'm saying, I'm presenting, but not a compilation, but just another Young Bleed album, but with my whole initial stage name on it, basically.
Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I wanted to know about that. I'm glad you cleared that one up.
Absolutely. And then, of course, it'll follow up with the Corleone family. You know what I mean? Was my personal family and clique, more often coming from the umbrella of the concentration camp. So it gave that an alley-oop. You know, me being the don of the clique, I wanted to present the family. So, you know, it gave me that stage to set the tone for the rest of the guys.
Okay. You know who's underrated as hell that I'm pretty sure is part of the Corleone family?
Yo.
Lucky Knuckles.
All right, that's my brother, man. I just released a single on him that everybody loving called Hustling on, and we'll get to that later with this compilation I just did called Welcome to the Trap. It was the first single out. I put that out like in November, and they've been running ever since. But that's my only blood brother by the same father, same mother. But I tell him that all the time and try to get him the more, you know, he one of them boys and that type of thing. And I had the more benefits of the game. So until it benefit him, he got that 1 foot in the street type of thing. And still, you know, with me being the pivot, but he is as talented as me, if not more talented in a lot of places. So we working on some projects behind the scene, a Young Bleed, a Lucky Knuckles album, and a whole lot of stuff. You know, my brother done did more jail time than me, so he'll come home with raps that he got programmed in his head forever. And that was one of those raps when we get to Hustling that shouts out to my cousin Brent Dixon and Divided Souls that redid the Slick Rick's children's story and pitched that beat to me. But Lucky rapped it in my ears, and I was like, I got a beat for you. And we put that out, Brent. If you haven't had, I'm sure you have had a chance, but to the world that's listening, y'all pick up that Welcome to the Trap Hustling. Welcome to the Trap, Young Bleed's Welcome to the Trap compilation that features that hustling on it. But yeah, he one of the greatest, man.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, boy. Look, the song that y'all killed that shit like all around, yeah. And I play that motherfucker so much even now. And it's 2025. It's Bounce My Skate with you, Javon, and Lucky on that motherfucker.
Yeah, and Jay Bond is another one of those vicious boys. But I appreciate that, man, coming from the soul on my brother. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's my shit right there. Now, what experiences with West Coast Mafia and Strange Lane Records? Because at one point in time, you had a record deal with Tech Nine as well.
Yes.
So how did that influence your growth in your career path?
It's really the same Here again, well, for the first time, full circle for me, cause coming back to California after those times, both shots out the big brother and the whole West Coast mob reintroduced me to the West in California, bringing me back out there and making me a part of his establishment. And just on the same kind of mob ties and street ties alike, he recognized me from the penitentiary. I saw a magazine that my same cousin Brent Dixon would bring to me, and with him and Yuck and all of us as friends and family to this day. It's funny how things happen. And I was able to go through them the same way with attention on wasn't the label at the time, but Selecto Hits. They put out a couple of records on me, the Once Upon a Time in America and the Rise Through the Ranks, you know what I mean, Volume 1. So that part reintroduced me to California, and then eventually in our time of deciding what we was gonna do next, Strange came along by way of one of the guys from Priority Records here again that became vice president over the Shots Out to Dave One. So it's the same California circle for me that brought me back to life in that sense of the word.
Okay. And then now your seventh album technically, was that supposed to be all Amedican?
Well, I had like The Legend of Bleezy Rallo is 2 records that I never presented, and all Amedican. So, you know, time change, spirit change. Eventually, you know, I'm a re-whip up that chemistry, and I release it eventually. But I always say like a 5-10 album template of what I'm finna do, you know, one after the other one. But, you know, due to how the world changed and all that, I go by spirit, things have changed. So I end up, you know, here again, not putting out those records, and then putting out a few other records to this day. But getting back to it, man, yeah, that's something to look forward to in the future.
Okay. Now, did you run into any, like, was there any difficulties that you encountered when you was trying to release and promote all Amedican for why it was unreleased or why it didn't come out?
Really time and situation, production, and me moving around. I lived in 41 states at least a weekend, so just being stable enough to do those projects. So I start, and maybe the producers at the time, you know, we made an intertwine, maybe we broke apart, the graphics guys, and different things like that, and just, you know, moving so many places. Then storages, I done lost material and different things like that. So just catching up with myself, basically, and more of that than just really having the differential. And like I said, a few tracks lost here and there for what I said as a template. So I just got to reinstate it and recreate it in that sense of the word. But, you know, basically that.
What you know about Young Lee?
What it is to know. Much as I can tell you.
So what you want to know? I mean, I got some stories, man. It don't stop. I would bleed.
He had this big infatuation with the music life. He always wanted to be a superstar.
He had this little group when he first started doing his music called Total Darkness.
Bleed was one of the lit G's that was up on the, you know what I'm saying, when we were doing the 6-pack thing. Southside 6-pack.
You know, all them my little niggas, they're a little younger than me, so I watched them niggas come up. They come up under me. So you know they had to be dogs coming up under me, bro. Hold on right here.
Do you have any idea why you were brought down here today?
Hey yo, one little life done. I got my game from the streets, on my way slicing me one and blowing dank to the beat, holding my heat, cause I'm knowing niggas are hating and showing while we blazing and blowing. I can see the cross they growing. See, I'm a seat now.
What are your top 5 favorite rappers dead or alive? You was breaking.
Like I was breaking it down for you. I feel like it's like, you remember when Mike Tyson told Ali he was gonna get Larry Holmes back when he got old.
Yep.
Going to Don King, you cannot compare the 70s to 2025, dog. Because we was just learning the ABCs and 1, 2, 3. And if you go back to hip hop, it wasn't an 808. LL was carnage because of his vocals. You see what I'm saying? And long for him, it wasn't no music. It was sound effects and scratches and cuts. So here again, I'm June 6th, baby, 1974. I'll be 51 years old coming this June, but I celebrated the 50 years of hip hop. I tell everybody last year, I'm born this way. So as old as hip hop is, I am. So I saw that evolution from a Southern perspective. So for me, I have to break it down for you like this. And it's, you know, for each coast and state and you know, that matter, you know, talking to 50 states, you know, it's hip hop all over the world before it's the greats and the guys that inspire me to do what I do to this day, going back to New York being the origin. I have to go to the 70s and the Gemini theory kind of way. Maybe I could give it to you two at a time. You ever played LA Live? I mean, NBA Live back in the days.
Yeah.
You look at basketball when Wilt Chamberlain first was in, and the shorts was up to your hips. And later on that changed. You can't, that's a different dynamic, my brother. You see what I'm saying? So you say the 80s, I say the 70s. Okay. When you're looking at hip hop 78, 79, I'm a 4 or 5 year old kid. You know what I mean? And you got Busy B, the Curtis Blow, you know what I mean? Eventually to the Sugar Hill Gang coming out 79 into the 80s. So I do this for you. If I could do solo MCs in a Gemini way. So come my 2 is 1 for the 70s. It's like Busy B and Curtis Blow for me. You see what I'm saying? We get to the 80s. It's all but a trilogy. And it's hard to do this, man, because a lot of these guys, I still listen to those records now. But Rakim, you always hear in all my interviews, always been my favorite rapper of all time, just because he stuck to the script since 86 when he come in, and still to this day as a guard MC and a true 5%er. But LL, Daddy Kane, right in that origin, but Rakim being the pivot for the 80s for me. Okay. We get into the 90s, coming out the 80s into the 90s, I would have to say guys like the DOC, then Tupac and Scarface. You understand? Other than what happened with the DOC, we don't know where the stage of hip hop would be if he wouldn't lost his voice. He was like Jimi Hendrix on vocals to me. You know what I mean? For us, and that before we knew he was even from the South and being biased toward, you know what I mean, to the game. But that's my 90s into the 2000s. I would say from the soil, Lil Webby, you know what I mean, and boosting them in that range. And up to date, man. My favorite now, as well as I'm sure America's favorite, is Kendrick Lamar. Yes, you know, and right before Kendrick, Nipsey Hussle. You see what I'm saying? That I saw carry this torch and keep it going. That's authentic with the game. I stick not to the gangster shit and who the hardest, but who keeping it real for his life and spirituality, mentality, and mentality for that matter, man. All the way up and down. Anybody can put on a clown suit and tap dance and do this, that, and the other. But where are you in real life? If you ain't living it, don't get on that microphone. I don't want to hear the bullshit, man. Yes, know what you're talking about. And Future on the in-between coming into these 2000s. Guys that came with something new to the game. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Versus everybody sounding alike. You know what I mean? That part of it. I dig a lot of new records, and this you know, I'm the bridge between that gap. Like I said, a young that bleed for this young generation. I still keep a young on my name, and I tell all the youngsters that to relate that old and new. I try to be the bridge between that gap. I'm a baby to the game till I became OG. So I don't, you know, if you don't know where you at, you know, where you come from, you don't know where you at to know where you going. It's always in that trilogy for me. So it's hard to put it in a nutshell. But if I could sum it up like that, that's basically as I can give it to you.
Okay. No, shit, you know, that's 100. You know, now I'm glad you said you brought up the name when you said you still leave Young on there. But yeah, how did you come up with Bleed? Because if Tank was your nickname when you was a kid, where did Bleed come from?
I got it from the original Bleed. My granddaddy name was Good Bleed. So before in his time of passing, I was able to have one of them walks and talks with my papa on the porch. And we used to watch cartoons, Scooby-Doo, so on and so forth. But Richie Rich was one of my favorite cartoons. So I just say, Papa, when I grow up, I'm going to be rich. But how I'm going to get there? My granddaddy was the type of man to say, man, if you borrow money from somebody, pay him back double. You see what I'm saying? He went blind halfway through his life. It looked like I knew him 100 years. But from 74 to 84, 85, I lost my grandfather. But he laced me best as he could he didn't talk that war shit to me. You see what I'm saying? He kept over South Baton Rouge with his family. So when I thought about it, like I said, I went through a plethora of names from 8, 9 years old, finding myself as an artist and as an MC. And when I thought back to it right before I changed my name from C-Loc to C-Loc, I mean, from, you know what I'm saying, you know, mentioning that earlier, but from C-Loc to Young Bleed. Yeah. I say this time is for the money, and this one gonna be once I get into the industry, it's forever. You know what I mean? And once I signed my deal with C-Loc Records, I had names before that. But saying to say this, what mean the most to me? And there was the talk I had with Granddad one day that said, one day I'm gonna grow up and be a rapper and I'm gonna own a record company. He said, you're gonna be able to do it. You can do anything you wanna do. But the first thing you're gonna have to learn to do is listen. And he went blind, so I didn't understand what he meant at the time. But after a while, his ears became his life because he couldn't see where he was going. I was his CNI dog. You see what I'm saying? So chip off the old block. You see what I'm saying? From Granddaddy to me. My granddaddy's name was James Donald Goodbleed Johnson Sr. And the guys in the street will tell you he was good to bleed you with these from the shoulders. I used to box in the front yard. He was my Costamado. You see what I'm saying? So he left me with these and these.
Already.
Yeah, I mean,
now, speaking of starting your own label, because you told your granddaddy that you was going to start your own label, and that actually brings me to my next topic, is you found your own label, Trapdoor Entertainment.
Absolutely.
And I want to know, how is finding Trapdoor Entertainment change your creative freedom and opportunities in the music industry now?
Being a Gemini, it's a crazy balance. Having a vision that long since a 8-9-year-old kid prepared me for that type of balance. So well, when you look at, here again, Boss of My Words, the record on that called The Day They Made Me Boss.
Yeah, that's my shit.
I just wanted to be an artist. But after the falling out with C-Loc and Master P, I never signed directly to No Limit. Then I had to boss up. You know, guys, you just say, hey, man, you know, this rap shit is easy. Moby Dick from No Limits to tell me. I say, what you mean? You know, the industry and Priority Records used to tell me, hey, man, you know, this is 10% talent, 90% business. I used to feel disrespected as an artist. But then I had to understand the business. If it wasn't for guys of that nature, kids that were sitting at the computer, pressing the records, putting out flyers for the shows to advertise you, promotion, marketing, and advertising, I had to learn what that meant other than just having a rapper skill. You understand? So for that part, when Priority folded, what I'm going to do now? Go back to where I come from? Or I'm going to create a lane for myself to continue to please the public by putting out dope material. So that made me a boss in that sense of the word. Street boss, industry boss, just to keep the house going. So that part of it is more responsibility. You know, it's a lot of guys are going to freestyle, do this, that, and the other, but they're not going to sit down and do the copyright, the split sheet, the publishing, all that. That's the behind the scenes. Then the argue at the end of the day about they getting fucked out of money. But if you hadn't educated yourself to this game, you don't know whether you being fucked or not being fucked. So school yourself to this game, and that's before you call yourself a boss. You have to own a business and run a business like a business to make it a true franchise. So that part, my brother.
Okay, you dropping jewels now, boy, for real. Well, you've been dropping jewels, but you damn sure dropped the heavy one just now. Who's on the roster? Officially or unofficial, you know, who's riding?
I start with my daughter that's here with me today. You know, her name is Tia Clifton. She's my first daughter. I have 3 daughters, 2 sons, and 6 grandchildren nowadays, man. So it's legacy. My whole thing was, if I left here today, that's what I wanted to leave in stone for my children, you know, for starters. But guys across the country and Kentucky, Louisville, shout out to the Stupid Crew, you know what I mean? Nova Prime, you know, my homegirl Shaq, you know what I mean? That type of thing. You get to St. Louis, East St. Louis, Zam 2-Turn, Alabama, Jizzle, Maine. Who am I missing? I'm trying to think song by song, but, you know, everybody that's pretty much all but a few artists that have their solo individual thing that's on this Welcome to the Trap compilation is pretty much the Trapdoor Entertainment family.
Okay. And then the Coleon family, is that going to be a group that you're putting up under that as well?
Yeah, the Coleon family initially started when I went into Selecto Hits. Rest in peace to a few guys, Matt Glut, Low Key, you know what I mean? But Blazak, man, Uncle Pauly's original member, Lead Time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From C-Loc Records into that. Rest in peace to Mark Anthony, you know what I mean? Mr. Harold Henry Coward was the bass player for Andy Gibb and the Bee Gees, the rock group. He was like, we used to call him the Blonde Don, and I was the Young Don. Had a 40-acre studio that I recorded records like My Own, the Vintage album, as well as the Corleone Family. That gave me 40 acres to be able to come out and spread into Selecto Hits. That was my home base for as a record label and company and studio into Memphis, Tennessee to Selecto Hits. So it's a plethora of guys. We got ideas. Rest in peace to Last Level, man. You know, I done lost a lot of my guys, man, streetwise and otherwise over the years.
Okay.
So us remaining members, man, we trying to rekindle, and it's a possibility that we're gonna do a few more Corleone Family records in the future to come.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, I would love for y'all to, you know, at least tap back into that, you know, and
so
whether it be some of the, you know, some of the old members with some new members, but I think that's something that you know, that's always been a thing that mafia thing has always surrounded you. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And shouts out to King Tyrant too. So it's a few of us that's here that I'm missing that we're gonna do something eventually, you know, but just, you know, licking our wounds, man, fresh deaths and different things like that. You know, it's like when Pimp C died. Pimp C was starting an empire that included me, myself, C-Bo, MC8, and God knows who what. And all of a sudden that happened. It threw us all off our pivot for a while. You know, shouts out to Pimpy Ken that kind of backed off the game. But kudos to him nowadays with the hip-hop fraternity out there in Atlanta and a few states around. I call Uncle Pimpy, man, from Milwaukee down. So, you know, things happen in life. Yes, sir.
I felt your first two album covers conveyed a distinctive narrative because when you look at My Balls and My Word, you know, it's like you was walking up to the Heavens mansion.
Yeah.
But then when you did My Own, it's like you was in the mansion and you was looking out the window.
Yeah.
So what inspired the concepts behind mainly those covers, but was there any other, you know, album covers you did that kind of had like a story behind them? But those two mainly.
Well, all of them do. You know what I mean? For starters, you know what I mean? I actually started off aiming at doing like a blues, baby, not a blues-based sound. You hear that banjo at the beginning of Keep It Real on the Balls of My Word record. So what I want to do is give it that, you know, Pimp C will say rest in peace, country rap tune. So coming from the South, when we was being called country rappers and all that, my granddaddy was a blues man, you know what I mean? My uncle and so on and so forth. So I wanted to take from that cloth and incorporate it into hip hop, you know what I mean, from my perspective. So I really aimed at shooting like a Robert Johnson's cover. If you remember the 80s movie, The Crossroads, that tell a story of Robert Johnson. And pretty much the cover was him walking up those crossroads, you know what I mean? So I wanted to use it in a cross-like fashion and far as, you know, north, south, east, and west, coming from the south, looking up into the country, going toward north, and getting toward the east and west, but keeping straight for the back cover. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
But we went to the world famous Pen and Pixel at the time, and I shot the picture that how you see me posed in front of a white screen. We do green screen nowadays, but we shot on the white screen, and I was trying to explain that to P, to Loc, and I don't think they quite grasped my concept. So what they did was put something together and sent it back to me, and I okayed it. Then I had to learn how to define that. And I said, okay, that's still kind of, as far as my spirituality and life path, I describe it as, okay, in a Christ-like fashion, coming from the wilderness up to the stairway of heaven to a mini mansion in the sky. So that's part one when you're talking Balls in My Word. By the time I did My Own, now I'm on my own, one-on-one, face-to-face with God, getting that assignment. You see what I'm saying? Before I'm sent back down to the earth. So you see me put the Bible down on the second cover, the poster to give you the remnants of the first cover. You see what I'm saying? Chapter 2. And just here again, you see the sun rays, the beams that's shining down on me, and into that mini mansion in the sky. Me just kind of looking out the window, but getting that assignment. So by the time I get the records like Vintage, it's like Rebirth and Recycle. I went back to my essence. See, the truth of vintage, that's a real cover. When I was about 8, you know what I mean, going into 9, right when I started my rap evolution, 82, 83. Okay. But with my name being Young Bleed, my grandfather's name was Good Bleed. So that's him on that cover, the old man. That's his son. So when I say both blues men, him and his son, and my other uncle was the one I'd always described that played drums. He didn't play piano and different things like that, but my granddaddy did. My uncle that's on that, James Donald Johnson Jr., we used to call Petey Weestraw, the devil's son-in-law. You know, and my granddaddy had a chance to kind of meet knew Rudy Ray Moore a little bit in life. You know what I mean? It was kind of like Rudy Ray Moore, the family.
Yeah.
So, Dolomite, Petey Weestraw, you know what I mean? The Human Tornado, they grew me up on them Dolomite movies. So, in that same sense, reflecting back after my own going into vintage, then I'm showing the world who Bleed really is. You know, I'm a chip off the old block with Granddaddy. That's a real picture. You know what I mean? E40 them had a record back in the days when he say, what that is in One Love, when he talk about how they had to use sheets for curtains and all that. So you look in the background, my granddaddy died of alcoholic. You see Seagram's gin on the table, Tanqueray, and I was brought up in that essence. You know, I was their baby. So in that sense, reflecting back here again of life, going back into that part 3 was vintage, you know what I mean? So it was a vintage cover, you know, sometime in the 80s, and right in my evolution that just happened to be captured, not knowing at the time, you know, that'll become that later in life. Part 4, and then me introducing myself as Young Bleed Carleon all over. The first time I put the Carleon on the top of a record, you know what I mean, versus the 2 Young Bleed records. But part 4 was like, okay, now we doing our own Bible with the Carleon family. So you see, it's in a book template. You see what I'm saying? Family business. So that's nice. We writing our own chapters. We could learn from John and, you know what I mean, Matthew and Mark and so on and so forth. But now we got our own guys and congregation and disciples, compact disciples here at the time. So I'm reinterpreting the spiritual game back into the earthbound, going into that. Number 5 would be, I believe, Rise Through the Ranks. You know what I mean? When I connected with C-Bo, that type of thing, West Coast Mafia. Just got off the line with Bo, man. As a matter of fact, we working on some more new material. That was the first time I took a modern day face cover. You know what I mean? I want to say the only record like that. Everything else was kind of like a follow me essence. You know what I mean? My reason for turning backwards on the camera, you know, just following that path. You know what I mean? Rise through the ranks. So, you know, I'm back, you know, here, you know, and you see the wilderness again behind me, coming back to the jungles that I come from that wilderness. You know what I mean? Throwing up a 3 for the third coast, meaning the South, and a dub for the West Coast, connecting with West Coast Mafia at the time. 6, where did I go with 6? I'm not mistaken. What did I do after that? Once Upon a Time in America.
Yeah.
So, okay, so after taking that portrait, then when you listen back to Balls in My Word, you know, I did the Ghost Rider record. It's a reincarnated song. So you know what I mean? It's like Ghost talking to me from the other side. Everybody that done carried the baton before me, from Malcolm, Martin, Marcus Garvey. And that sense, I used to drive a 65 Cadillac that, you know, I could hear things in that car. It just sounded like 1965, and keep in mind, I'm a 70s baby. But I used to call my Ghost Rider, she really called it Casper. It was all white 65 Cadillac I got from my pops, you know what I mean? That type of thing. And I'll tell you stories about that car and some Christine kind of shit in true life. You know what I mean? Yeah, I used to put people in that car and put my foot up on the dash, and then it'd accelerate itself. You know, that type of thing. That car, as a matter of fact, with Ghost Rider, I fell asleep in it one night. On my way, I was working a couple of jobs, hitting the studio at the end to make that first record. So in a lot of senses, in a lot of ways, I almost died 1,000 times getting that to the world. But I fell asleep in that car and bounced off a medium and woke me up. You see what I'm saying? So that car was like a real life tank to me. And so many police pullovers and so on, you know, me and story, but sticking to the script.
But that cover, you had your back turned on that one. You went back to having your back turned on that one.
Okay, yeah. So getting to that, I'm all the way back on the earth now. You see what I'm saying? But this time I don't have the Bible. I done got my lessons. I done got my assignment. So now, you know, I'm full-fledged businessman at this point. Coming in as an artist, learning the industry, so on and so forth. So now I'm back to create my own template for as becoming on my way to being a young CEO, and which I was. I always had a company. Even then, my first company was Criminal Records that never got off the ground. I think Benny Siegel had one and 3 other people throughout the world. So I couldn't really use that. And so later on, we'll make Detention Home with one of my hood houses we used to call, you know what I mean? That one-room shack with the alley back type thing, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Fast forwarding into Trapdoor Entertainment, but this is my third label. But coming back on the planet with the briefcase, and I mentioned that because talking Ghost Rider, that's a sample of The Exorcist, you know, the Happy replayed, you know what I'm saying? And but getting to Once Upon a Time in America, it's a rendition of The Exorcist cover. Next time, instead of the priest, I'm a street priest on that spirituality level. You see what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Here in the hip hop form, my Adidas, if you look at it, I got the black and white Adidas. Rest in peace to John Master J with the leather coat and the gangster hat. You know, still keeping it hip hop, but in that spiritual realm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That part of it, to answer your question as a whole, and then so on and so forth, the rest of the chapters, to be continued. So I always pick up where I leave off and just fill in that time gap. Rather, I put out a record every year, every 2 years, I fill in that blank to let you know what my journey was and just update it. So that type of thing.
Damn, well, okay. So you a deep thinker for real. But
you know, and to be continued to this day. You know, we can go on and I can explain them all, but that's how that registers in my mind in that order fashion. ABC 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? Gotcha. God, man, woman, and child. So I create in that same essence in everything I do in life.
Okay. Now earlier you brought up Pimp C, and yes. So you've had the opportunity to collaborate with 2 of No Limit Records, I would say legendary figures like Soulja Slim and Mr. Magic before their untimely deaths. And so do you have any memorable stories about your time with Soulja Slim and Magic?
Magic was my guy, man. We spent a lot of days and nights together building and rebuilding, you know what I mean? It's like different segments and sections to No Limit. I'm probably along the lines of 3rd, if 4th family. You know, keep in mind Pete coming out the West, King George, and all those type of guys that was there in the beginning. Then later on coming back home in New Orleans and our essence and evolution. Then I met Pete and really, you know, not actually signing to No Limit. We became friends and family and businessmen. But later, after that, I think Magic was really signed or about to sign with True. You see what I'm saying? No Limit Records and True was 2 different things. C-Murder, I think, is the CEO of True, and P was the CEO of No Limit. So actually, Magic was one of C-Murder artists. And then when C ran into his situation, then it left, you know, left him at No Limit. Him, Tebow, a few other guys that I'm forgetting to mention, ended up No Limit artists. So me and Magic, after his breakup with No Limit, we started running together. He actually I didn't know a lot of those guys lived in Baton Rouge for a while. You see what I'm saying? And then I found out the No Limit headquarters was in Baton Rouge off of Carquet Boulevard. You know what I mean? And I recorded the rest of my bars and my work. That's when I figured that out. But later on, Magic used to come through the neighborhood, you know, and we them boys, you know what I mean, in the streets. So my brother was doing this little thing, you know, with the herb, and he'll go through this particular hood, the Guardia Lane area, and go to my brother's house to get him a sack or, you know what I mean, get him a blunt or whatever the case might have been. And he realized that was my brother. So he told my brother that he always wanted to work with me. And I was vice versa, not knowing each other subconscious, not being under the same umbrella at the same time. So later on, within a year or so like that, I'll be in the hood. I always be back there doing something. And I was at one of my cousin's house and we was talking about that. And I was dropping one of my pit bulls off to one of my cousins to watch while I go out of town. So standing in the driveway, Blue Explorer or something like that hit the block. And cuz said, that go Magic right there. I had never met him in life. He pulled up actually to my cousin's driveway when I had the little pit. So we stopped. He stopped. We talked for a second. And he said, man, I want to get one in with you. He said, we're going to get to it. And we swapped numbers and been partners ever since. But it looked like to me, it might have been sometime, whatever year that was. I want to say early, some way between 2003, 2005 or something like that. So making a long story short, it looked like it was a year before I heard back from him. And one night he called me and said, hey, man, I got one for you. And that song turned out to be I Smoke, I Drink. You know what I mean? And we started on, shouts out to B Doctor, was the producer. So we worked on that record and we loved each other's chemistry and said, hey, man, let's do a collaborated album together. So I came up with the title. I said, ever since, being here, you from the soil, we always call New Orleans the city. We down here, everybody say you're going to the city, you talking about going to New Orleans. Baton Rouge is more country and not necessarily rural country as where you coming from. You know what I mean by the sticks.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
We country city, but unless you're on the outskirts of Baton Rouge, it's more city than country. But New Orleans is like a city that don't sleep. I call it baby New York because it's kind of like a southern New York, at least for Louisiana. So we said, let's call it Country Boys and City Slickers. You know what I'm saying? So we started working on it, and it's like 9, if not 10, unreleased songs that I'm working on. Perhaps, shouts out to Mo P to see if he still have those records, and I do what I got to do to get them released before everything is over with. But he again saying to say this, we started running with that record. P, what Matty was having his difference with P, and and had a disc record and all that. It was on a different page, so he was outside of that. I think he was had signed with Catch and was getting off Catch, working on another deal. So that was the singer he was focused on, just getting one hot record to rekindle himself, and ended up putting me on that record. But everywhere we'll go promoting that record, from Louisiana, Mississippi to Alabama, before Hurricane Katrina. So it was before 2005. We going up and down the Gulf Coast and all that, and we doing 3 shows a night, easy, just off of doing a few records and introducing that record at the same time. So every time we'll do a show from Monroe, Louisiana to Birmingham, Alabama, the MC will get the mic after we close the show and say, hey, y'all, next week, Soulja Slim gonna be here. It's like, damn, Slim, his name kept popping up with us. And I hear good things about Slim making efforts to make records with me and vice versa. I was a Slim fan as well. Mm-hmm. So one night, me and Magic coming out one of those Country Boys City Slickers session, 4, 5 in the morning. And he say, hey man, you know who I'm gonna put on the third verse? I say, who? He said, I'm gonna put Slim on that record. Now, keeping in mind, a few weeks, maybe a month or so prior to that, I recorded a record with Snoop at No Limit when he come down here, from Death Row.
So Soulja Slim was originally supposed to be on the I Smoke, I Drink?
Yeah, exactly. Not originally. We started off just us, and he was figuring what he was going to do about the blank in the third verse. Okay. And he thought about it. He said, he was going to put Slim on it. But before I conclude with that, okay. I'm in No Limit one night once they signed Snoop. And Snoop, before he finished his record, wanted to do a record with me. We had been aiming at each other from California, initially met and eventually met in Houston, Texas at a big No Limit show we had out there. And we had an opportunity to meet each other and was real fond of each other. And he let me know he was living in Baton Rouge. And he was going to call me to do something with him. So the night I'm in the studio, I want to say it was a Monday night. I was supposed to go to Atlanta and do something. And then something was up with the flights. It didn't take place. So Snoop called my manager, Paulie. Paulie let me hear the message. I said, well, shit, let's go record with Dawg. So I get over there. We make that record. C still was free. Max still was free. All of us was in the studio that night. Moby Dick, always a B kind, at least when I was around, was the closing guy in the studio. He'll be the last one there mixing the records, doing whatever. So I had a headache that night. Me and Snoop did a nice record. I keep that disclosed for now. They deciding what they're gonna do with that record after all this time. But saying to say this, Snoop come to me and say, "Man, you all right?" I was like, "Yeah." You could tell I had a headache, but I forced myself to make sure I made that record with Snoop. So I said, "Yeah, I'm cool." He said, "We all going to this party. You want to go?" I said, "Nah, I'm gonna go home, bro, and rest this headache off." So they left. Everybody left. And I'm getting ready to leave, and Mo come to me and say, "Hey, Bleed, don't go nowhere right now." I said, "Why, man? I got a headache. I got to go sleep this off." He said, "Man, Soulja Slim on his way up here. Slim been wanting to meet you. He crazy about you." I said, "Okay, well, cool." So I hung around waiting for Slim. I never met him in life. Just knew each other through records. So go to the park, go downstairs to the parking lot once he pulled up, and we grabbed and embraced each other, nothing but love, you know what I mean? He said, "Bleed, we're going to get us one in." Now, if I wasn't feeling like I felt at the time, I wish I would have stayed to this day for what would take place. Fast forward to take back to me and Magic that night, 4 or 5 in the morning. And he said, "I'm going to put Slim on the record." I say, "That's who you put on the record." You know what I mean? So after that, I said, "Look, man, as soon as you go to New Orleans tomorrow, as soon as y'all record that record, call me, because I want to hear it." I was that eager to hear it. He said, "All right, I'm going to do that." Then Magic will wake up at 8 in the morning planning on what we going to, go do our next shows, what we was going to do, just swapping ideas and just waking up as brothers, having a cup of coffee, you know what I mean, and chopping it up. But I went to bed when I got home, anywhere 5, 6 in the morning, and my phone ring anywhere between noon and 4 that afternoon. So I rolled over looking, saw it was Magic, and hurry up and jumped up, eager to hit a record. I said, "Say, but y'all did it, bro. Let me hear it." He said, "Man, Slim dead." So that fast, the night before his demise, you know what I mean, we made them efforts to get at him the next day, and before 24 hours was, you know what I mean, here today, gone tomorrow. That took place, and that's my Slim story. We met once in life. Yeah.
Which album and song do you believe showcases your work at its finest?
Well, in reality, maybe to the public, I might have reached that, but to me, I hadn't. I got a lot of more stuff to come. But as of today, bro, from beginning to my last solo album, and I got a few, along the way this year, that there is a God, far as reaching a pure quality of MCing without cussing on the record, still move, you know what I mean, moving the crowd in that sense of the word. But that level of, from how we was talking about the basis of all the covers and stuff, just that giving back and that one-on-one complete my cycle with God in a complete circle. You know what I mean? I keep going in everything I do, but just reaching that level of MCing to where, they say guys use cuss, we use cuss words when you don't have an education, no nothing else to say. But I finally was able to do, that's the one album that stick out that's different than everybody else. You're going to get into the groove of it. I'm going to keep it funky, you know what I mean, in that sense of the word. But the literature, you know what I mean, is pure in that sense of the word. So as far as that type of accomplishment for me, myself, that level of MCing, being able to do that, do a whole album, stick to the topic, 14 songs, all pertaining to God, but in the same but different way. So for that, yeah, so far, what was to come after this, man, you're gonna be blown away. But yeah, from Balls in My Word to There Is a God, to There Is the God record. Anybody that's not up on that, yeah, for where the state of the world is right now, that's necessary.
All right, so, yeah. All right, that showcases his finest work right there. You heard it from Young Bleed himself. And yes, then my last thing would be is, what are your upcoming plans? What do you have rolling out for everybody?
I'm geared up enough to where I could drop an album a month right now. I'm working on 20 plus projects, going into 30 projects. Ooh. So, I move by spirit. As long as God continue to inspire me, I'm going to try to continue to inspire others in that sense of the word. Like I say, I'm a CEO now for Trapdoor Entertainment. So it's a plethora of artists under the umbrella. So as I back up and, you know, they take the center stage, I'm going to continue to work as long as, like I said, the man allowed me to breathe to do that. That's my life dream and life fruition, you know, if I could say it like that. But yeah, just sticking to my same script, man, chapter for chapter, man. Man, I think, you know, it's hard to just put in a nutshell. But what I have on the shelf and what's coming out, man, shouts out to my guy, Mia Vibes out there in Switzerland. We did a single recently released called Epic Proportions. Shouts out to my cousin Brent Dixon and all the producers that participated on Welcome to the Trap. I just dropped that compilation. I did another single with Fiend that's produced by Brent as well for Divided Souls. That's called Saturday Night. And it's like Mardi Gras, like in a couple of weeks or something like that. So we just did that. And everything just, you know, everything that's coming out. And the production team is an infinite team, man, from here to Africa. I'm working with so many good, positive, strong guys and ladies alike for that matter. That the music is, you know, I'm up all but 25/8 recording these records because that's how much inspiration is bringing to me. The man is blessing me with the literature to put on these records and pass it out to the people who go to, and everything is green lights right now. So, you know, stay tuned in that sense of the word.
That's what's up. Well, hey, from CIRV'N IT RAW and Gutter Kane, we definitely want to give you your flowers, man. You have been a pivotal person in my life.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, growing up, man, like I said, everything that you did with Concentration Camp, everything that you've done with SIBO, everything you've done with Tech Nine, man, your music has, you know, continued to grow and actually help build this thing 50 years that we call hip hop.
Hey, man, I'm celebrating life as well. Like I say, you know, I ain't grow this way. I was born this way. It's in you, not on. You're born in it, not sworn in it, man. So I'll be 51 years old. God said the same June 6th this year, man. So let's be continued, my brother. I appreciate that.
For sure, man. Salute. I'm gonna want to give you a little hidden gem too, before you let everybody know how they can reach out to you. But
okay,
I used to always hear you and C-Loc on songs and stuff say, "I never say die."
Yeah.
And dude, as a kid, that's when I started realizing that, like, saying, like, the power's in the tongue. So if you keep saying something like all the time, it most likely it can happen. And I always went back to that shit, and I was like, man, I wonder if that's what him and C-Loc meant when they would say, "I never say die," because y'all would talk about everything that was happening in the streets, but y'all never would, say anything about y'all passing away. You know what I'm saying? Or dying in y'all record.
That part.
That's what
I get what you're saying, and let me take you back, my brother. Actually, I'm working on looking for some guys to put together this young group that I want to call the Goonies. We say goons, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the Goonies. But if you remember that movie, the Goonies.
Goonies, yeah, the movie.
And the main character would say, Goonies never say die. So that's why I got the inspiration. I actually ghost wrote that whole song for me, C-Loc, and Lee Time. So I brought that to the table and introduced them to the terms of never say die. So that's in an effortless manner when you go back to listening to a fool. I say I'm eternal like Raiden, so I just can't lose and pay my dues to act a fool in this motherfucker. Yep. So that part, so I believe in that life eternity, not necessarily living in a physical plane on the planet, but being right with God and, here again, rebirth and recreation and reincarnation. So I believe that, we from Baton Rouge, we say pass the baton. Asada Shakur used to say pass it on. So when I finish a book and it's full of knowledge, I want the next brother to have that book. Like the Nation of Islam or Islam as a whole, meaning I self-lord and master. I want for my brother what I want for myself. Each one teach one. So that's the whole essence of that. We don't die. The clips to say we don't die, we multiply. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So just as far as legacy and the continuation of life, birth and creation, that's where that's coming from.
Already. Well, hey, I want to give a shout out to the whole concentration camp, man, and shout out to Lee Time, man, all of them, Happy Perez.
Yes, sir.
Max.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
You want to let people know how they can reach you?
Yeah, man. On Facebook, go to the Young Bleed fan page. On Twitter, it's at the Real Young Bleed, and Nah, I think it's either at the Real Young Bleed and Instagram is the Real Young Bleed. Minus the ad, vice versa. And anything else, man, I'm on a plethora of platforms. At the very least, Google me, man. There's a trap. Do I forget? We doing a Shopify that I'm putting everything, back under the umbrella.
Already. Well, hey, I want to thank my viewers and listeners for checking out another episode of CIRV'N IT RAW. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hey, if you did, please share to subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms. Leave us a review. We'll be back next week with another great episode. And in the meantime, I want everybody to have a great week. And I want to especially thank Young Bleed for you taking the time out with us, man.
Yes, sir, my brother. Salute. I appreciate that, man. Much love, respect, success, and God bless to you, my brother.
Already, it was an honor, and I will have how you can reach out to Young Bleed down in the description. So, man, hey, I want you to have a blessed week, a blessed day, and I'll be keeping in touch with you, man.
Yes, okay, man. Tap my shoulders. I'm on deck, my brother.
Already.
Hold it down.
Just make sure to coke fire.